What if I told you that your success depends on how well you can communicate? I have realized that communication today has evolved around us. My job forces me to communicate with people on a regular basis. I'm always networking and establishing relationships with coworkers. I have learned that sometimes it's not what you know, but who you know. Overall, I feel that I'm a great communicator, which makes me a great leader. I try to keep constant flow of information throughout the office. This is one way to know what everyone knows and not allow an individual to be hoarding information. I know that the lack of communication can cause misunderstanding, poor morale, and an effective relationship, to name a few. It's all about staying connected. Our world today is evolved around communication. No matter where I go, I'm always communicating. Whether it's cell phone, internet, driving, working, or just listening, I'm always communicating because that's the key to success. I have enhanced my communication skills over the past 8 weeks. This class was very informative and it taught me techniques that I will add to my day-to-day life. The class has made me aware of many communication skills that I have never paid any attention to. So because of that, I would like to share with you what I believe the characteristics of an effective communicator may be. Next, I will analyze my communication and then evaluate my communication in each settings and overall. Finally, I would like to discuss what can be done to improve my communication and what I have learned from this course. First, let's start with characteristics of an effective communicator. I believe that there are many characteristics of an effective communicator, but I personally think that having a positive attitude can easily be the top characteristic. Your attitude and behavior can become contagious to the people around you. You always want to project a positive attitude and make your audience or group confident in accomplishing the mission, no matter how hard it may seem. Positive attitudes help you cope more easily with daily affairs at work, school, home, or wherever you communicate with people. It brings optimism to whomever you're communicating with and makes it easier to avoid worries and negative thinking. The next characteristic will have to be effective listening. Communication isn't all about talking to someone. Effective listening means really hearing what the other person is saying as well. Listening shows that you care about the message that you are receiving, and it may show that you value the other person's opinions. Remember that you learn more from listening than you will do from speaking. Another characteristic is understanding your audience as a group. Always realize who you are talking to and understand how you communicate will change based off the audience or a group. I think showing compassion would be another characteristic of effective communicating. By putting yourself in another person's situation will allow you to better understand their emotion. Effective communicators always see the situation from the perspective of another person. Finally, I would like to say that a good communicator will ensure that they comprehend the message. Effective communicators aren't afraid to ask for clarification if they don't understand the message they are receiving. So, a positive attitude, effective thinking, understanding your audience, showing compassion, and comprehending the message all makes up the characteristics of an effective communicator. Next, I would like to describe and analyze my communication. I will analyze my communication in the following settings: small groups, interpersonal, intercultural, and public speaking situations. First, I'll start with small group communication. I participate in small group communication every day at work. I supervise 12 soldiers, and it's my job to ensure that they are gainfully employed. I receive many different missions from my higher headquarters each day, so many that it's impossible for me to accomplish by myself. It's up to me to distribute and delegate those missions to my team. Once I break the taskings down and hand out the individual mission, it's their job to accomplish the mission. Even though each individual mission may be different, we share the same goal, and that's to accomplish the mission and ensure the unit is logistically prepared for battle. It is important to communicate throughout the day while working in a small group. It is very easy to miss something or work harder instead of smarter when there is a lack of communication in a small group. I work as a team with my soldiers and ensure that there are constant communication throughout the group. This will allow is to work with each other and instead of against each other. I see a small group to be no different than a class full of students with an instructor, no different than a workplace or an aerobics class. In a small group, each member may have different roles but share the same goal. Each person in a small group is like a puzzle piece. All the pieces are different, but somehow they connect to make a perfect picture. Members influence each other and help work through any problem that may arise. I can also see how sports team can be considered a small group. You have to form your team, then your coach decides who's the captain. Next, you will practice as a team and come up with plays that will let you know your role. After practicing and learning your role, now it's time to perform. At the end of the season, if the team didn't do good, then it's time to adjourn and find new players. Small group communication may be the best way to accomplish anything if it involves teamwork. Interpersonal communication. I realize that if I'm not careful, it can come off rude, offensive, or disrespectful. Interpersonal communication can be received as verbal and nonverbal messages. It is not about what I said, but more how I said it, and its nonverbal messages sent through tone of my voice, facial expressions, gestures, and body language. It is interesting to me how interpersonal communication can happen unintentionally. All you need is another person in the same room as you and watch each other's behavior. A simple yarn can tell a person that you're either tired or bored, or a smile can show that you're happy about something. You don't have to be engaged into a conversation with another person to have interpersonal communication with them. Even though verbal communication is not intended, people can receive messages through your body language and nonverbal action. Interpersonal communication has affected and is very much part of our everyday lives. In class, we had an exercise in week 3 that involves nonverbal communication, and we had to break down nonverbal rule. Well, one of the nonverbal rules is walk like we drive, which is on the right side. If two people are walking down the street, if two people are walking down the narrow sidewalk, each one of them, without saying anything, not even making eye contact, would naturally step to their right to avoid contact. I think that this is a perfect example of interpersonal communication because it involves two people to communicate non-verbally, even though a non-verbal rule may apply to the situation. Communication is continuous. Even when you try not to communicate, you still do or show some type of communication. Interpersonal communication is the process we use to build relationship with others through communication by effectively understanding the other situation. Communicating in the right manner, not what we say but how we say it, and influencing them to listen and take action as needed. I find intercultural communication can be difficult for most. There could be a huge breakdown from different languages to religion to beliefs. To be effective communicators, you need to be able to communicate with anyone, no matter what race, religion, or native language they may speak. Some people cut communication off because someone may be from a different culture or simply because they do not share the same beliefs. To me, this is where breakdown begins. Once the flow of information stops is when I feel the learning process and educating stop. One of the reasons history repeats itself is because of the lack of knowledge and communication. It is up to us as people to have continuous flow of communication with all people, no matter race, religion, beliefs, or different languages. We must learn from each other in order to progress not only as a people or a nation, but across the world. My personal experience came when I was deployed to Iraq in 2009. I think the biggest barrier for me was the language and the different values and beliefs. The best way I had to overcome the barriers was through education. I began to educate myself on the local customs and courtesies. Instead of turning my nose up to what they believe in like some people,